philosopher says, the future is always in motion and change is always going. I don't know about you, but those guys sound like dirty Zinch worshippers. Hey Strat fans, it's me, Colonel Strat, the strategy extraordinaire here, and today I'm going to dive into the last of the DLC races and kind of show you a little, the best 3 forms that I've found that he can take. So the Changeling, as you all have probably played the DLC know, if all of you are first to see the DLC, then the Changeling, what he does is he can take the form of any legendary lord or hero in the game. And this makes him quite powerful, but some legendary lords and heroes are only as good as their items. So the Changeling doesn't have access to their items because they're legendary items. His only good forms are like forms that are good just by themselves. And these can be very limited. Like Tyrion could be a really good form, but if you don't have his Sunfang or Heart of Avalorn, then he's kind of B tier. You know, but on the other side, Scarbrand, you know, he's always good. So I'm going to show you 3 forms today that you can take with him, as well as combined with his 2 new heroes that join him, Cold Hellbrass and the Blue Scribes, to really show how insane they can be together when you have this form as well. And as always, remember, if you like what I do, if you like the channel, if you like seeing these tactics and want me to do more, remember to smash that like button. You know, leave me a comment down below and maybe sub to the channel too if you like it. And check out my Patreon too. You know, I'm trying to expand a little bit, and also I have a Discord server that I'll link in every video as well. You know, you can catch me on there. I post updates to videos, and eventually I'm going to start doing some game nights and you know, try to reach out to my community that way. So, you know, catch me on there as well, guys. So let's get right into the forms now, shall we? Alright, so the first strat we got here, again, we have the Blue Scribes, and we have Acold down here. But for the Changeling, for his form, I've chosen Kugath's Plaguefather. And now, a lot of people wouldn't think he's that good in combat. But the Changeling has a few additions to Kugath that make him really, really good. And plus, Kugath has been the subject of a few like minor changes that makes him pretty good now. And he's combined with the Blue Scribes and and Acold, they're really good. It's a really good strat to use. So the Blue Scribes are always going to be, there's these 2 little flowing blue horrors that are always up here. And what they do is, every time they cast a spell, they get a random spell summoned with them. So like now we've moved the Kugath, and we're able to see all of his abilities. Like he's got this Nurgling tile, which summons a unit of self-destructing Nurglings, which does a hefty amount of damage. Also, he can buff up his melee damage, and he has access to all of his spells, as well as all of his, you know, minor buffs. So he already is really good. And then, of course, he's got all of these different spells that he can spew. And Acold has access to the Breath of Life, which is really, really good regeneration spell. So he's good at killing off hordes and hordes of guys. Now, normally, we wouldn't be able to do this. You know, normally, we wouldn't have this benefit, because we wouldn't have access to all of these spell lores. And you know, we have to spam we do have to spam a lot of abilities for spells, but Acold has an ability as well that allows him to take his sword and, you know, move it around. So if you unlock that ability, you're instantly going to be doing really good. Like right now, we've already routed these 3, and Acold is challenging the general, and you know, we haven't taken much damage at all because we're able to heal up. So we've got the Cloud of Flies, got the Arcane Surge going on, we got Greater Arcane Conduit, and the Locust, and all that. So we're able to pump out a lot of magic, and just, you know, we have to. It's kind of a little bit of luck of the draw sometimes with this strat, because the Blue Scribes, literally every time they cast a spell, your entire kit gets randomized. So you have to kind of pray to RN Jesus, which in the Warhammer world is Tzeentch himself. But it can be pretty good, and having a solid choice like Kugath will help keep it solid, because Kugath will always be able to heal. Acold will always have that heal that he has, his passive heal, and he has this Thorn aura, which is actually pretty good at keeping enemies in around here so they can't run away from you. Now this is against all melee forces. Kugath is very, very susceptible to, like all large entities, very susceptible to being hit by missiles. So if there's a lot of missiles, then he probably wouldn't do as hot. But just like with Scarbrand, there's the same issue comes up. But with all these melee forces, he's going to do really well. So and then Acold here, even though his barrier goes down, his Breath of Life is always active. So the only thing that can really kill him is enemy lords or high damage units. Because even though he does not that much, even though he doesn't do that much damage to heroes, he can do a whole lot of damage to lords. Like right here, that lord is going down. These guys are going to rout soon, and we pretty much won this engagement. Where we started, we were a little bit under. So yeah, we pretty much won this engagement now. And that's the first one there. So again, just to recap, Kugath, really big tank unit. Acold, a lot of damage, and Blue Scribes do their thing with the magic. So let's get into the second form now. Here we are with the second form. So the second one, again, we're bringing the same two heroes, but for this time the Changeling has the transformation set to Lord Croak. Now I know what you all are thinking. Oh my god, we couldn't have seen this one coming at all. Lord Croak is not always the best option for most, even though his Deliverance of Itza is really, really good. He is slow moving. He's not really really based for melee combat, because look, his melee attack's 26, his melee defense is 12, so he's not really good for melee combat. But even though he's very slow and he's not really good for melee combat, with the two heroes, they're able to keep him from getting attacked. Even though these guys will gang up on him, he does have a saving grace, his Shield of the Old Ones. Now, it can only be used for 18 seconds, and it's cooldown 120 seconds. So it can only be used a certain amount of time, but it still is pretty good. And the Blue Scribes here have gotten some really good spells already that they're able to buff up. They're able to buff up Lord Croak, and of course Lord Croak, having his Deliverance of Itza, is going to do really well as well. Look, right here, this Deliverance of Itza, it is just always so good. Yeah, it's always so good. I wonder if it's where is it going? Come on, it's gonna go soon. He still does decent amount of melee damage, but he gets hit a lot more often than before. But as you see, we were able to rout those two pretty easily this time, even though this character isn't as good as Kugath in a melee fight. With Acold helping, as well as the Blue Scribes casting away, they're casting random spells, and we got some good RNG this time too, so we were able to cast really good spells. And if we get him in the middle of it and he blobs them up, that's a perfect way to cast Deliverance of Itza. Watch. It's a perfect way to blob them up and get some good Deliverance of Itza casts. We're just able to get them here, and then if we combine that with Acold's little, spell here that reduces their movement speed by 45%, we're able to get massive kills like this. Look, that was insane. 60 kills just like that, and those two are already routing. So now, pretty much, the balance of power is completely flipped in our favor now. The enemy are down 100 guys, but they're also, most of them are routing, so it's already doing really well. And then we get a summon spell from the Blue Scribes, and we get a unit of zombies on the field. So it could be anybody's guess. We could get any spells that could benefit, but the Blue Scribes, it's just complete utter chaos with what spells they get. But they always get a decent spell. I've seen they always get one decent one, no matter what. And then this is another Deliverance right here. This is going to win it. This one's going to win it. And, so we could just blob them up like this with Croak. And then A-Cold can deal with the heavy units like the General, the Blue Scribes helping Croak, or, with special destruction spells or whatever. It could just, it just sows chaos. And it's so good of a strat. Like, boom, right there. And that's pretty much going to be the army losses. That's going to be the army losses right there, I bet you. Yep, we just got one more. We just got these few more here. But already, it didn't take as long as with Kugath. And we're able to do a whole lot more damage. Even though A-Cold took a little bit of a hit, he's got a lot of regen that he's able to regen all of it back. And Croak took a huge hit. So you're going to want to supplement these with some troops. You can't just have these three on the field, because eventually Croak will croak out. But, he still is pretty beast of a character to pick for the Changeling. And I do recommend him pretty high on the list with Kugath as well. Pretty much wraps up this one. There we go. So now let's go on to a tier 3, or to the third one. And finally, here we are with the third form, and of course, it has to be Skarbrand. Skarbrand the Exiled is probably one of the most overpowered forms to get for the Changeling, and I always recommend it, even though, I've seen everybody, post, like, we're gonna getting Skarbrand as the Changeling's OP form. The Changeling can do this ability where he gets a decoy to try to, get them to chase after him, but Skarbrand's form is insane, and even though he's a monstrous, a big old scary monster, he still does really good. Combined with A-Cold, dealing some damage with them, and the Blue Scribes casting random spells all the time, that help Skarbrand as well. He just does so much damage, and it's awesome to bring him in to just rake them up, just like if you were playing Skarbrand without having to deal with Skarbrand's faction mechanics. So it's a really good one, and combined with the Blue Scribes doing so much chaos to the enemy, they're able to do so much. And A-Cold holds down a lot of them over here, so Skarbrand doesn't get overwhelmed. Skarbrand can rampage them, as well as do all of his special abilities. He's got Frenzy already. Again, that weapon damage is just insane. And if you combine this with the Changeling skills that add more physical resist, that add more spell resist, that add more more weapon damage and health points to Skarbrand's model, he becomes unstoppable, because then he gets over like 10k health. He's got like 20-40% physical resist, I believe. He just gets overpowered when you get the Changeling's campaign effects onto him. Like here, he's still pretty overpowered in the Changeling's form, but he's not that overpowered, and he can actually take a hit from the spears, doing bonus versus large damage against him. But he still does really good because he's got flaming and magical attacks, because Tzeentch, because he's Tzeentch in disguise. But he's still got 20% physical resist and 25% spell resist. He's got Fueled by Rage, he's got Frenzy, he's got his 3 active abilities. He's got all of this going on, as well as an insane amount of weapon damage that he's just able to dish out and blob up the enemy forces, to where the Blue Scribes are able to cast like vortex spells or breath spells to do a lot of damage, while Skarbrand's keeping them blobbed up. And then A-Cold is able to deal with their leadership and then blob up the other ones. I'm going to speed this up a little bit, because it kind of gets a little boring how they're not charging in and we're getting that kind of random lame spells from the Blue Scribes, so we're trying to just get a bunch of them killed. And there we go, there goes their leader, and Skarbrand just killing away, and A-Cold is just holding them up there, and it creates a power dynamic between the two, that they just clump them up in 2 clumps. The Blue Scribes hit the clumps with hopefully, if you get like vortex spells, you're able to hit the clumps with the Blue Scribes. Again, it's not guaranteed because it is RNGesus, but never send the blue scribes in, because I'm about to show you what they are like on the ground. They are not meant for melee combat. Like, see, they do that. That's what they do. But they have, like, no melee defense. 25 melee defense. That is nothing. They get hit so easily, and their shield is almost always already depleted, and they've done, like, no damage. So never send them down. That was a blunder on my part. But doing spells like this, like I think this is the lightning spell, I believe. Yeah, I believe it's the lightning spell. No, it's the piercing shards. Yeah, doing spells like that is always worth it, because that does a whole bunch of damage. You blob up the enemy units. You're able to do a lot of damage, and this strat is mostly effective. These three forms are mostly effective against blobs of enemy units. They aren't really good against heroes, because they're meant to be big bad monsters that just destroy blobs. And A-Cold is good against the heroes. He can help counter them, but the blue scribes and the changeling forms are not going to do well against them. See, blue scribes already at half health. They just don't have they're not made for melee combat, not like these two are. These two powerhouses are made to just pull them in. Blue scribes, dunk them down with vortex spells. That way you get a lot of damage to them. But because these guys are single entities, A-Cold can pretty much tank it, because he gets so much of a heal. He gets 10% heal every second. He gets a 10% heal. So that's insane. And now we get a Blossom Wind here, which is pretty good, but I think I missed most of them, which kind of sucks, but okay. Again, I still get a decent amount killed, and then he gets shattered. So, and then now we've killed quite a bit. Scarbrand had to face a little bit more. I added 4 extra units on top of it, so he dealt with a little bit more. Alrighty, and that's that one. So now that you've seen all 3 forms, I'm going to wrap this thing up for you now, guys. So those were the 3 forms. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I did throw out a couple of the curveballs there with Kugath and Croak. Everybody knew Scarbrand was going to be on this list, just because his form is just insane. But if you can combine the campaign buffs that buff up the changeling forms, all 3 of these forms are going to be insanely powerful against, like, big blobby armies, like armies of chaff or armies of high tier infantry. They're just going to be nothing compared to these guys. Be careful with missile armies or with hero armies, because they're going to do a little less with those guys, but they still do an insane amount of damage. They're going to be very effective for you, and they're going to, really cause a lot of havoc to the enemy. But again, a lot of it is also RNG based because of the blue scribes. You can never predict what spells they're going to get, but you always have at least 1 or maybe 2 good spells that pop up. So with that, I hope you guys enjoyed these tactics and that you can apply them to your changeling campaigns, and I hope you guys continue to go out and change, everybody. So that'll do it for me today. Remember to keep it strategic, Strat fans. Colonel out.